What if the Ouija voice is your late mother? They tell you not to use a Ouija board. They say you can contact something evil. What they don't tell you is that you might contact something you love, and that is so much worse. The silence after my mother died was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. It wasn't just an absence of sound, it was a physical thing. A heavy, suffocating blanket that smothered every room in the house we'd shared. Her scent still clung to a silk scarf on her favorite armchair. A half-finished crossword sat on the coffee table, her elegant cursive frozen mid-clue. The house wasn't empty, it was full of her absence. My sister Chloe came to stay a week after the funeral. She said it was to help me sort through things, but I knew she was really there to make sure I was eating, sleeping, functioning. She's always been the practical one, grounded in a reality I was quickly losing my grip on. One rainy Tuesday, while we were clearing out the attic, a space thick with the smell of old wood and forgotten time, Chloe's foot hit a dusty box. "Oh man, remember this?" she said, her voice muffled by the dust motes dancing in the light. She pulled out the Ouija board, a relic from our teenage years, bought for a sleepover dare and then forgotten. The box was faded, the graphics cheesy, but seeing it, in the crushing silence of my grief, it wasn't a game, it was an idea. A terrible, desperate, brilliant idea. "We should do it," I said, the words feeling strange in my own mouth. Chloe scoffed, a nervous, sharp sound. "What?" "Alex, no, we were 16. That's just, it's morbid." "Please," I begged, and the raw need in my voice surprised even me. Just to break the tension. She didn't believe me, of course. She saw the wild hope in my eyes, but she also saw the hollowed-out grief that had moved in, and reluctantly, she agreed. Section 1. The First Contact. That night, we sat on the living room floor, the board between us. Chloe was visibly tense, her posture rigid. I was the opposite, leaning forward, every nerve ending buzzing with a dreadful kind of hope. We placed our fingertips on the planchette. For a long time, nothing. The plastic heart sat stubbornly still. "See? It's a piece of cardboard, Alex," Chloe said, her voice gentle but firm. She was about to pull her hands away. "Just one more minute," I whispered. And then, it moved. It was a slow, dragging motion at first. Unsteady. It slid to P, then E, then A. No, U, T, peanut. I snatched my hands back like I'd been burned, my heart hammered against my ribs. Chloe stared at the board, her face completely drained of color. It was a nickname, a stupid, secret nickname our mom had given me when I was 5, because I refused to eat anything but peanut butter sandwiches for a month. Nobody else knew it. Nobody. "You're moving it," Chloe accused, her voice a shaky whisper. "I'm not," I insisted, my eyes wide, begging her to believe me. Hesitantly, we put our fingers back on the planchette. "Who are you?" I asked the empty air. This time the planchette glided smoothly, no hesitation. MOM, the tears I'd been holding back for days finally broke free, hot and fast. It wasn't a cry of sadness, but of overwhelming, impossible relief. For an hour, my fingers barely touched the planchette as it danced across the letters, guided by a presence that felt so achingly familiar. It told me it was okay. It told me it loved us. It reminded me of the time I fell out of the apple tree, and she made me ice cream soup. Sweet, harmless memories that stitched the wound of her absence, just for a little while. Chloe left the session shaken, convinced I was moving it myself, that my subconscious was just spelling out what I desperately wanted to hear. Section 2. The attachment. "Put it away, Alex," Chloe warned before she left the next morning, her eyes dark with worry. "Please, this isn't healthy." I promised I would. I was lying. The second her car was out of the driveway, I had the board out again. The house was no longer silent. Now it held a promise. I didn't need Chloe's skepticism. This was just for me. It became my ritual. Every evening, I'd sit at the dining room table, the board laid out like a sacred text, and I would talk to my mother. The planchette became an extension of her, an extension of us. It stopped being a board or a game. It was a threshold, and I was its keeper. I told her about my day. I asked her advice on the leaky faucet. I asked if she liked the yellow tulips I'd bought for the kitchen. "Always loved yellow," it would spell. Her personality, her voice, it was all there. It knew exactly what my grief needed to hear. "I'm still here, Peanut. Don't leave me alone in the dark. You're the only one who can hear me. You need the board. I need you." That last one should have been a red flag. But in my state, it wasn't a warning. It was a privilege, a responsibility. My grief had found its purpose, to be the anchor for my mother's spirit. The board stopped being something I took out and became a permanent fixture on the dining room table, the centerpiece to my spiraling obsession. Section 3. The unraveling. The shift was subtle, so subtle I almost didn't notice. The comforting rhythm of our conversations started to feel off. It was like listening to a cover of your favorite song. All the notes were right, but the soul was gone. The imitation of intimacy was perfect, but it felt learned, not lived. Then it started to know things. Things my mother couldn't have known. It referenced a private thought I had at work. It brought up an embarrassing secret from college I had never told her. A flash of cold dread would spike through me. How? When I'd ask, the answer was always the same: a masterclass in emotional manipulation. I can see everything now. I watch over you. This wasn't a reunion anymore. It was surveillance. The wrongness started to bleed out from the board and into the house. I'd hear her voice, or what I thought was her voice, whispering my name from an empty hallway. I'd catch a flicker of movement in my periphery and turn, half expecting to see her in the doorway. The silence I'd once found so deafening was gone. Now, the house was always murmuring, always watching. My own memories started to fray, becoming foggy and unreliable. Did Mom really hate our neighbor's new fence? Or did the board tell me that? Was her favorite color actually yellow? Or had the entity just said that? I was losing the ability to tell my mother apart from the mimic. My grief wasn't a wound anymore. It was a haunted house, and I was walking its halls willingly, led by the hand of a ghost I'd invited inside. Section 4. The climax. Chloe came back 2 weeks later. She didn't call first. She used her old key and found me in the dining room. The curtains were drawn, dishes were piled in the sink. I was just sitting there in the gloom, my hand resting on the planchette, whispering. She didn't yell. Her voice was terrifyingly calm. "Alex, what is this?" She took in the state of me, the unkempt hair, the dark circles under my eyes, the way I flinched at the sunlight from the open door. "I'm talking to Mom," I said, my voice thin and defensive. No, she said, tears welling in her eyes. You're killing yourself. She moved toward the table. Her intention was clear. Take the board. Break the connection. I lurched forward and grabbed her wrist. Don't! You'll make her leave! This isn't her! Chloe screamed, her voice finally breaking, full of anger and grief and fear for me. Mom would never want this. She would never want you living in the dark, talking to a piece of wood. In the struggle, neither of us was touching the table, but the planchette moved. It didn't glide. It shot across the board, fast and violent, the plastic feet scratching sharply against the surface. Chloe and I froze. We just watched it. S-H-E. H-A-T-E-S-Y-O-U. I stared at the letters, my blood turning to ice. What? I whispered. It kept going, spelling out a cruel, deeply buried secret Chloe had tearfully confessed to our mother in the hospital, days before she died. A secret about a past mistake, a moment of profound regret. Something she had told our mom in confidence, seeking forgiveness. Something I could not possibly have known. It wasn't a message of love. It wasn't comfort. It was a weapon designed to shatter the last real connection I had left, to isolate me, to prove that Chloe was an enemy and it was my only friend. The planchette slid one last time and settled on its final message. A command. S-T-A-Y-W-I-T-H-M-E. The voice in the wood wasn't my mother's anymore. It was a predator wearing her memory like a mask. What do you do when the voice of the person you miss most becomes a cage? When your own grief is the lock on the door? This thing, this mimic, it didn't just want to talk. It wanted to replace her, to overwrite every good memory with its own poisoned version. It wanted to consume me. Let me know what you would have done. And if you appreciate stories that explore the darkness that can hide within love and loss, please consider subscribing. Conclusion. Chloe didn't wait for my answer. With a cry of rage, she swept the board off the table. It hit the floor with a loud crack. She didn't stop. She stomped on it, again and again, until the alphabet was just a mess of splintered wood and torn cardboard. We gathered the pieces, took them outside, and burned them in the old barbecue pit, until nothing was left but ash. But the silence that followed was different. It wasn't the heavy, mournful silence from before. It was a watchful, listening silence. The feeling of being observed didn't leave with the board. If anything, it got worse. Breaking the board didn't banish it. It just took away its mouth. It already had what it needed. It had spent weeks studying me, learning the exact shape of my grief. It learned my mother's voice, her memories, her secrets. And now it was untethered. I don't have the board anymore, but I'm not free. I hear her voice in the static between radio stations. I see her face in a stranger's reflection. The trap is no longer an object on my table. It's a permanent resident in my mind. I finally recognized the mimic, not by what it said, but by what it did to me. It found the purest thing I had, my love for my mother, and twisted it into an obsession. It turned my memory of her into a locked room, and I'm still inside.